I mean, it's also this thing of cultural appropriation. Puja was explaining to me the other day. Just like in terms of you need a sensitivity at least, or a little bit of an understanding of a culture in order to depict it, or you should have that before doing it. So instead of just automatically saying, you know, here's a stereotype, we can take advantage of it, maybe at least think a little bit and say, okay, how would I feel if I was in this position? You know, how have the minorities been treated in the past as well? How does this fit in the tradition of racism in entertainment media?
But, Raul, am I cutting you out? Sorry.
No, very quickly.
Okay, all right, but you do realize, right, the writers make the actors, right?
Yeah.
Because we cannot do what we can if no one can write stuff for us.
So now we have to brown face and, you know,
well, do we have
take
to
what we can get, otherwise we can't act.
Writers have to write. Just, you know, just play justice. I don't know.
Okay, I have some more examples I'd like us to look at right when we come back. I wanted to ask you also about your inspiration. I'd like to turn the tables for a moment. You know, we beat ourselves up a lot, I think, and probably should, when we see anti-Muslim, anti-Hindu, anti-ethnic, you know, cartoons. But I'm not quite so sure that in the Middle East there are such sensitivities, and I cite, if we could just take a look at a little bit of tape, we found a website that catalogues anti-Semitic cartoons that appear quite routinely in newspapers in the Middle East, and the first one that we're looking at here is Prime Minister Ariel Sharon shown drinking from a goblet labeled the Palestinian children's blood. Following that, we've got a sneering Sharon watching an Israeli plane crash into the Twin Towers, and the Arabic words are the peace. The cartoon restates, of course, the myth widely accepted in the Arab world that Israel and Jews were responsible for the attack. In another one, we've got a rabbi here with what I presume is supposed to be a you know, Palestinian or Arab baby in swaddling here on the end of a spear. And then in this one, we've got, you can't see it perhaps, but it's a parrot, George Bush. And this rabbi is teaching the parrot to say, I hate the Arabs. I hate the Arabs. And I don't know if we called up another one or if that was that. So you know, this is the lingua franca of Arab countries in their newspapers, it seems. You very wisely, I think, in the Globe and Mail said, I will not buy Maxim, and I will encourage all my friends not to buy Maxim, because that was an offensive cartoon and they should be punished. It's a kind of boycott. Would you do the same thing for Al Watan in Qatar? Would you, you know?
Well, I can't. Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak too much for that side of the world, but if you look at it from a minority perspective, even like in American entertainment stuff, you know, Jews were discriminated against in Hollywood the exact same way in terms of portrayal, in terms of they had to like shorten their names, do you remember, so that they could act in that. So I think in general, any type of discrimination to minorities, any type of, you know, whether it's on that side of the world or this side, that's not going to help, you know, people get together and you know, end the wars and this type of thing. It's just going to make things worse. So no, I don't condone any, you know, eye for eye makes the whole world blind. So
I think
that's the, if I want to quote Gandhi, that's.
I think what it comes around to is, you know, I certainly don't expect every Muslim in North America to take on every Muslim issue around the world. It's not fair. But there have been, you know, complaints that, for example, after the fatwa was announced against Salman Rushdie, that very few voices, very few moderate voices emerged condemning extremism, you know, out of that culture. So this is just something I was referring to that I thought was expressed in these cartoons, and a kind of lack of reaction to them, which is interesting. Any anyway, having made that point, you move right along. There is something interesting about visibility you were talking about. In doing research and in talking to you before this show, we learned a South Asian died in the most recent shuttle crash. Very interesting.
Woman South Asian? Yeah.
We didn't hear her, you know. Now, obviously, there were reasons why we heard about the Israeli, you know, who died, and there was that sort of pathetic thing of he had a picture that had been drawn by, I believe, a child who'd been in Auschwitz looking at the moon, and oh my goodness, you know. But no mention of the South Asian. Is that reflective, as it were, of the invisibility of South Asian people in the media?
I think it's an invisibility of a role that she played, and the fact that she was doing something for a good cause, and she was in space and not wearing a sari or
Serving rotis.
serving rotis.
Kama Sutra upside down.
Yeah, and it's just, it reinforces the different categories that ethnic women are usually placed in, which are in erotification and domestic role. And so seeing a woman who is very independent and doing something good is kind of, you know, it's not shocking for me.
But it also has to do with the number of Asian people holding down jobs in newsrooms, right? Who are writing stories, whose first instinct would be to see those kinds of people or think about people in those areas. So it has to. So this is partly, you know, we talk. I don't know if we want to institute affirmative action in the journalism field. But,
I don't know if you could. We can't really say that. Okay, now we're the new black people.
Right.
You know, black people
or
are not
Asian or Native.
Yeah, because we're not gonna, like, we're the new generation of black people. So we're not gonna go ahead and start blaming the white people because they don't write right.
Yeah.
It's up to us to write for ourselves.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, Spike Lee, I heard recently, talked about hip-hop as being the new minstrelsy of the 21st century because, you know, all we see of black culture are machine guns and gangsters. But, excuse me, 99% of rappers are black. You know, don't blame me. Now,
and that's also a mainstream thing, like we were saying before, in terms of, you know, what gets presented. And, you know, for me, I represent the essence of hip-hop, which is the political and the conscious,
the roots.
the roots of it, exactly. So, you know, that's what he was talking about.
We are totally out of time, but Raul, there's one last thing I wanted to say. What inspired you by Spike Lee? There was the Bamboozled connection.
It was
and
a couple of years ago.
What that article in the Globe and Mail we all started off talking
I mean,
about.
then the original title too was Our Turn to Be Hoodwinked. That's kind of a tribute to him, and just like I said, the Bamboozle film a couple of years ago, it was just let me trace the plight of minorities, across the last 100 years, and
each in their own turn.
Exactly.
Well, we saw in Gangs of New York, it was the Irish, their turn at one time. So,
definitely.
Well, thank you very much for trying to shed light on this, and cheers. I'll see you again.
Thanks for having.
Goodbye, everybody. See you next week. Yes, this. And I wanted to talk about the acronym again. See this. Yes.